So it's really wonderful to be with all of you. And yeah, let's see how we can engage in some discussion of the Bhagavatam in a way that also helps us to enter into this new year and to make it a new year of promise, a new year of success, and a new year of increased enthusiasm in our service to Guru and Krishna. I have some ideas how we can take this forward, but we'll see how we go. I also want to request the blessings, especially of my seniors, all of you are my seniors. I also want to request the blessings of Srivas Prabhu as my senior, and to beg his mercy, so that by his grace and by the grace of all of you, we can say something that will be pleasing to Gurudev, to Prabhupada, and to the Guru Parampara. So please be merciful to us, so we can serve you properly. Okay, so what we'll do, as we said, is we'll go through 4th canto, chapter 9, text number 1 through to 25. We'll just read the translation, the English verses, because otherwise, if we read all the verses in purples, I think we'll be here for quite some time. Then I'd like to engage in some discussion. What I will say right now before we go on, actually, because I think this will be important. This will be a little bit interactive. If you wish to, you can grab a pen and paper, just because there'll be some things we're going to ask you to do as an activity or as an exercise to really focus in on what some of these key points mean for us, how we can apply them practically in our lives, and how we can, through the application, really tangibly experience a shift, a positive, tangible, and practical shift forward in our Krishna consciousness in 2022 and onwards. Okay, so let's start from there. So this is 491. The great sage Maitreya told Vidura, when the demigods were thus reassured by the personality of Godhead, they were freed from all fears, and after offering their obeisances, they returned to their heavenly planets. Then the Lord, who is non-different from the Sahasra incarnation, got on the back of Garuda, who carried him to the Madhuvan forest to see his servant Dhruva. So if you could go to the next verse. Okay, next verse. The form of the Lord, which was brilliant like lightning, and in which Dhruva Maharaj, in mature yogic process, was fully absorbed in meditation, all of a sudden disappeared. Thus Dhruva was perturbed and his meditation broke. But as soon as he opened his eyes, he saw the Supreme Personality of Godhead personally present, just as he had been seeing the Lord in his heart. Okay, please, next one. Okay. When Dhruva Maharaj saw his Lord just in front of him, he was greatly agitated and offered him obeisances and respect. He fell flat before him like a rod and became absorbed in love of Godhead. Dhruva Maharaj, in ecstasy, looked upon the Lord as if he were drinking the Lord with his eyes, kissing the lotus feet of the Lord with his mouth, and embracing the Lord with his arms. Next verse. Although Dhruva Maharaj was a small boy, he wanted to offer prayers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead in suitable language. But because he was inexperienced, he could not adjust himself immediately. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, being situated in everyone's heart, could understand Dhruva Maharaj's awkward position. Out of his causeless mercy, he touched his conch shell to the forehead of Dhruva Maharaj, who stood before him with folded hands. Next verse, please. At that time, Dhruva Maharaj became perfectly aware of the Vedic conclusion and understood the absolute truth and his relationship with all living entities. In accordance with the line of devotional service to the Supreme Lord, whose fame is widespread, Dhruva, who in the future would receive a planet which would never be annihilated, even during the time of dissolution, offered his deliberate and conclusive prayers. Now, one thing before we go on, just bear in mind that these last two verses are critical for us, because we will also be doing something around this idea of offering deliberate prayers to Krishna. So we'll come back to that later on. Next verse, please. Okay. Dhruva Maharaj said, "My dear Lord, you are all powerful. After entering within me, you have enlivened all my sleeping senses, my hands, legs, ears, touch sensation, life force, and especially my power of speech. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto you." Next verse, please. My Lord, you are the Supreme One, but by your different energies, you appear differently in the spiritual and material worlds. You create the total energy of the material world by your external potency. And after creation, you enter within the material world as the super soul. You are the Supreme Person. And through the temporary modes of material nature, you create varieties of manifestation, just as fire entering into wood of different shapes burns brilliantly in different varieties. Next verse, please. O my master, Lord Brahma is fully surrendered unto you. In the beginning, you gave him knowledge, and thus he could see and understand the entire universe. Just as a person awakens from sleep and visualizes his immediate duties. You are the only shelter of all persons who desire liberation, and you are the friend of all who are distressed. How therefore can a learned person who has perfect knowledge ever forget you? Next verse, please. Persons who worship you simply for the sense gratification of this bag of skin are certainly influenced by your illusory energy. In spite of having you, who are like a desire tree and are the cause of liberation from birth and death, foolish persons such as me desire benedictions from you for sense gratification, which is available even for those who live in hellish conditions. Next verse. My Lord, the transcendental bliss derived from meditating upon your lotus feet or hearing about your glories from pure devotees is so unlimited that it is far beyond the stage of Brahmananda, wherein one thinks himself merged in the impersonal Brahman as one with the Supreme. Since Brahmananda is also defeated by the transcendental bliss derived from devotional service, then what to speak of the temporary blissfulness of elevating oneself to the heavenly planets, which is ended by the separating sword of time. Although one may be elevated to the heavenly planets, he falls down in due course of time. Next verse. Dhruva Maharaj continued, O unlimited Lord, kindly bless me so that I may associate with great devotees who engage in your transcendental loving service constantly, as the waves of a river constantly flow. Such transcendental devotees are completely situated in an uncontaminated state of life. By the process of devotional service, I shall surely be able to cross the nescient ocean of material existence, which is filled with the waves of blazing, fire-like dangers. It will be very easy for me, for I am becoming mad to hear about your transcendental qualities and pastimes, which are eternally existent. Next verse, please. O Lord, who have a lotus navel, if a person happens to associate with a devotee whose heart always hankers after your lotus feet, seeking always their fragrance, he is never attached to the material body or in a bodily relationship to offspring, friends, home, wealth, and wife, which are very, very dear to materialistic persons. Indeed, He does not care for them. Next verse, please. My dear Lord, O Supreme Unborn, I know that the different varieties of living entities, such as animals, trees, birds, reptiles, demigods, and human beings, are spread throughout the universe, which is caused by the total material energy. And I know that they are sometimes manifest and sometimes unmanifest. But I have never experienced the supreme form I behold as I see you now. Now all kinds of methods of theorizing have come to an end. Next verse, please. My dear Lord, at the end of each millennium, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Garbhadakshaya Vishnu, dissolves everything manifested within the universe into his belly. He lies down on the lap of Sheshanaga. From his navel sprouts a golden lotus flower on a stem, and on that lotus Lord Brahma is created. I can understand that you are the same Supreme Godhead. I therefore offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Next verse, please. My Lord, by your unbroken transcendental glance, you are the supreme witness of all stages of intellectual activities. You are eternally liberated. Your existence is situated in pure goodness, and you are existent in the supersoul without change. You are the original personality of Godhead, full with six opulences, and you are eternally the master of the three modes of material nature. Thus, you are always different from the ordinary living entities. As Lord Vishnu, you maintain all the affairs of the entire universe, and yet you stand aloof and are the enjoyer of the results of all sacrifices. Next verse, please. My dear Lord, in your impersonal manifestation of Brahman, there are always two opposing elements, knowledge and ignorance. Your multi-energies are continually manifest, but the impersonal Brahman, which is undivided, original, changeless, unlimited, and blissful, is the cause of the material manifestation. Because you are the same impersonal Brahman, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Next verse, please. My Lord, O Supreme Lord, you are the supreme personified form of all benediction. Therefore, for one who abides in your devotional service with no other desire, worshipping your lotus feet is better than becoming king and lording it over a kingdom. That is the benediction of worshipping your lotus feet. To ignorant devotees like me, you are the causelessly merciful maintainer, just like a cow who takes care of the newly born calf by supplying milk and giving it protection from attack. Next verse, please. The great sage Maitreya continued, my dear Vidura, when Dhruv Maharaj, who had good intentions in his heart, finished his prayer, the Supreme Lord, the personality of Godhead, who is very kind to his devotees and servants, congratulated him, speaking as follows. Next verse. The personality of Godhead said, my dear Dhruva, son of the king, you have executed pious vows, and I also know the desire within your heart. Although your desire is very ambitious and very difficult to fulfill, I shall favor you with its fulfillment. All good fortune unto you. Next verse, please. The Supreme Personality of Godhead continued, my dear Dhruva, I shall award you the glowing planet known as the pole star, which will continue to exist even after the dissolution at the end of the millennium. No one has ever ruled this planet, which is surrounded by all the solar systems, planets, and stars. All the luminaries in the sky circumambulate this planet, just as bulls tread around a central pole. for the purpose of crushing grains, keeping the pole star to their right, all the stars inhabited by the great sages like Dharma, Agni, Kasyapa, and Shukra circumambulate this planet, which continues to exist even after the dissolution of all others. Next verse, please. Okay. After your father goes to the forest and awards you the rule of his kingdom, you will rule continuously the entire world for 36,000 years, and all your senses will continue to be as strong as they are now. You will never become old. Next verse. The Lord continues, sometime in the future, your brother Uttama will go hunting in the forest, and while absorbed in hunting, he will be killed. Your stepmother Suruchi, being maddened upon the death of her son, will go to search him out in the forest, but she will be devoured by a forest fire. Next verse, please. The Lord continued, I am the heart of all sacrifices. You will be able to perform many great sacrifices and also give great charities. In this way, you will be able to enjoy the blessings of material happiness in this life, and at the time of your death, you will be able to remember me. Okay, I think the next verse is the last one. Yes. So, the personality of God had continued, my dear Dhruva, after your material life in this body, you will go to my planet, which is always offered obeisances by the residents of all other planetary systems. It is situated above the planets of the 7 rishis, and having gone there, you will never have to come back again to this material world. Okay. So, we've read from the 4th canto, chapter 9, text number 1 to text number 25. There's a few things we want to bring out, and then there's also some things we want to discuss, and also some exercises that we want to do as a group. So, give me 1 second. Okay, so today is the 1st of January, 2022. So the usual thing is that everyone wants to get into New Year's resolutions. As far as I'm concerned, we can forget about the new year. Okay, as far as we're concerned, we can forget about the new year. What we want to do instead is something slightly different. Okay, we're going to engage in a few different activities and exercises with you. And we'll start the journey here. In this series of verses, one of the points that is made by the Supreme Personality of Godhead to Dhruva is about intention. So Krishna, in one of the verses, he actually says to Dhruva, or rather, it is understood that Dhruva's intention was good. I'll just actually find that the actual verse for you. Let's see. Let's see. So let's put it here. So 4:9:19, the personality of God had said, my dear Dhruva, son of the king, you have executed pious vows, and I also know the desire within your heart. Although your desire is very ambitious and very difficult to fulfill, I shall favor you with its fulfillment, all good fortune unto you. What I wanted to do in this class is to touch upon some of the key points in the verses, but also bring it through to some practical activity and exercise, okay? Some practical activities and exercise. And these activities, if we do them properly and sincerely, they will literally allow us to do a few things. One of the purposes of the activities we're going to do is to allow each and every single one of us in this call to do some time traveling. Okay, I repeat, one of the activities that we're going to do on the call will allow each and every single one of us to time travel. In the activity, if it's done properly, we're going to move ahead. We're going to go into the future. We're going to gain some insight from the future. And then we're going to come back from the future back to 1st of January, 2022. And we will use the insight that we bring to prepare our year. Okay. So that's one thing that we're going to do. Before we come to that, I want to touch upon the last few verses and the key point that I really want us to take on board here. I was thinking when I was looking at these verses, what's happening in this story? 4th canto, chapter 9, text number 1, it begins with the Lord pacifying the demigods. Why is he pacifying the demigods? It's because Dhruva is performing austerities. And in performing austerities, he's actually disturbing the environment. So in the 4th canto, chapter 8, text number 82, actually, let's go back, text number 81, the demigod said, "Dear Lord, you are the refuge of all moving and non-moving living entities. We feel all living entities to be suffering, to be suffocating. Their breathing process is choked up. We have never experienced such a thing. Since you are the ultimate shelter of all surrendered souls, we have therefore approached you. Kindly save us from this danger." Then the next verse, Krishna is replying, "My dear demigods, do not be perturbed by this. It is due to the severe austerity and full determination of the son of King Uttanapad, who is now fully absorbed in thought of me. He has obstructed the universal breathing process. You can safely return to your respective homes. I shall stop this boy in his severe acts of austerities, and you will be saved from this situation." So the chapter begins with that context. Dhruva Maharaj, Dhruva meaning determined. Dhruva is extremely determined to achieve his particular outcome. He's gone to the forest, he's engaging in intense austerities, and these austerities are so powerful, it's affecting the universe, it's affecting the demigods, and now Krishna's coming on the scene. Now the Supreme Lord is coming on the scene. And what's happening is, in the story that we're reading, 4th canto, chapter 9, we understand that Dhruva, as he's engaging in this process of meditation, at a certain point, because he's seeing the Lord internally, then he opens his eyes and he can see the Lord before him. And by seeing the Lord before him, he becomes completely stunned. The very Supreme Personality of Godhead who Dhruva Maharaj wanted to get something material from. Now that Lord has appeared before him, Dhruva changes his consciousness. This is really key. There are 3 types of devotees. Okay, there are 3 types of devotees in any spiritual community. For one type of devotee, Krishna is the sambandha. It's part of their life. So yeah, we do our own thing. We have our social life, family life, we have our job, we have our career, we have our hobbies, we have our interests, and we do a little bit of Krishna every now and then as well. Okay, it's similar to when you go to many devotees' houses, and sometimes the deity is hidden away in the most remote, small, dark, shadowy, dusty room in the house, right? It's basically, unless you make a special mission, you won't see that deity, right? So for some devotees, Krishna is part of their sambandha. He's there somewhere. That's one type of devotee. Second type of devotee is actually the type of devotee that Dhruva Maharaj was before he saw the Lord. For that second devotee, Krishna is their abhideya. He's a means. So yeah, we worship Krishna, but he's got to do something for us. So Shatovijaba Jantimam, Jnana Sukriti no Arjuna. 4 types of people come to Krishna. Those who are coming out of distress, those who have some desire for wealth, those who are curious, and those who are coming out of knowledge. But what they all have in common is that Krishna is a means to an end. Okay, I've got some distress, right? I've got some distress. I've run out of the aspirin. I've got no paracetamol, but maybe Krishna can cure my distress. Or I need some money. Okay, maybe Krishna can give me some money. I'm curious, what do these devotees do? Maybe Krishna will alleviate my curiosity, or I'm coming in knowledge, so maybe Krishna will by using Krishna as a means, I will gain the knowledge that I'm looking for. So one class of devotee has Krishna as a means to their material end. And then there's the devotee for whom Krishna is the goal. Krishna is the prayojana. Now, every single one of us, we experience Krishna differently because every single one of us have a different relationship with Krishna. You see? So the first question that we can all ask ourselves is, in my life, is Krishna part of the furniture? Is he one of the things that I do? Is he the means by which I get what I want materially? Or is Krishna my goal? Depending on the relationship that I have with Krishna, that determines the reciprocation of Krishna. In other words, relationship means reciprocation. And relationship determines reciprocation as well. So point number 1 is that we all get a different experience of Krishna based upon how we have arranged our life. I remember there was a disciples meeting in the UK with Bhakti Tirtha Swami. And he made a point which always, to be honest, since I heard him say it, it's just always left an impression in my mind. He said that there's a difference between doing what we want and then giving that to Krishna. He said that there's a difference between that and taking the other approach. So he was talking about Prabhupada, actually. He was talking about the difference between doing what we want and offering that to the spiritual master, as opposed to trying to understand, what does the spiritual master want? And then inconveniencing ourselves in order to please the spiritual master. Again, to be very, very transparent with all of you, when I read these verses and a meditation that kept coming to me, that just kept coming to me, was the power of objectives. So the power of having a focus and an aim for our lives. So the first was the power of objectives, the power of a goal. But there was something else that kept coming into my mind. And that was also the power of sacrifice. So 2 things. A goal, that means something I want to attain, something I want to gain. But I also understood that along with that is the other side of the equation. Something I want to gain, something that I'm willing to give. That we give in order to gain. When I looked at these verses, especially the last verses in this group, really stood out to me in terms of the point that Krishna was making to Dhruva Maharaj. So it's very, very interesting what he says here. He says, and this is in verses 4, 9, 24, the Lord continued, I am the heart of all sacrifices. You will be able to perform many great sacrifices and also give great charities. In this way, you will be able to enjoy the blessings of material happiness in this life, and at the time of your death, you will be able to remember me. So what I started to understand through these verses is that there are these two things that come together. That in order to gain, we have to be able and willing to give. That in order for us to have a real spiritual life, in order for us to have an enthusiastic spiritual life, we have to always be ready and willing to pay some price. When the day before we got initiated, I know some of you, Padma, I remember, was there. Yashoda Mai was there. Kunti, Madhavacharya, who came for our initiation. It was in the UK in 2001. The day, actually, it was either the day before or the morning of our initiation. I think it was the morning of our initiation. Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj made an interesting point. He talked about his health. And he said that some of the health issues that he had were related to a certain price he had to pay for some of the preaching that he was trying to do. Again, when I heard that, it really left an impression. Again, this idea that in order to gain, we have to be ready to give. When I tried, and I'm constantly doing this, when I tried to look at the devotees, especially those who are relishing Krishna consciousness, who are finding some taste in Krishna consciousness, and when I tried to understand what are they doing differently, because so many devotees have a whole variety of different experiences. Those who are relishing Krishna consciousness, I tried to understand carefully, what are they doing differently to those who may be having some, let's say, difficulties or challenges? And one of the key factors which kept coming up was this science of willingness, the science of the willingness to make some sacrifice, to perform some kind of austerity, or a willingness to inconvenience oneself in some way, shape, or form in order to continue to push on the mission of Krishna consciousness, in order to continue to relish the sadhana of Krishna consciousness, in order to continue to experience and receive the miracles of Krishna consciousness. I was giving class this morning at Bhaktivedanta Manor, and we were touching upon this idea of the comfort zone, because that word can mean so many different things to different people. And in its proper understanding, and we see this again and again in the lives of so many great devotees, seniors, etc., in its proper understanding, the idea of moving outside of our comfort zone is the idea of param drisva nivartate. The idea that in order for us to continue to progress in spiritual life, there's always something that we must be willing to give. It can become so easy as a devotee to shift our life in such a way that it's just whatever's comfortable, and then we fit Krishna in apart, aside from anything and everything else that we're doing. And not only can that easily happen, but it's also very, very subtle, because there is a need to maintain. There is a need to maintain on the level of our health. There's a need to maintain on the level of our, let's say, for example, financial maintenance. There's a need for all of these points. So as a devotee, we have to juggle a dynamic balance. The balance between maintaining a certain level of stability externally so we can function, and at the same time having the willingness and the active engagement in making some sacrifice in order to continue to share Krishna consciousness externally, and also to experience Krishna consciousness internally. the number one cause of stagnation is the lack of willingness to make some sacrifice or to inconvenience ourselves for Krishna and for Guru. It is the number one reason that the flow of mercy starts to dry up. So if we remember this principle, and if we engage in this principle intelligently, right? Intelligently, then we can continually experience the miracles that Krishna is always ready to give in this mission that we call Krishna consciousness. Every single one of us as devotees, whatever status that we're in, we're married to the mission. Every single devotee, directly, indirectly, however it is done, every single one of us are married to the mission. And actually, Krishna consciousness, because it's about experiencing a higher taste, the more that we're prepared to make some sacrifice, to perform some austerity. This whole pastime is Dhruva performing some austerity. He's upset, he's insulted. It's like, okay, I'm going to go to the forest. I'm going to perform austerity until the Supreme Personality of Godhead appears. And when he appears, what I'm going to ask him? I'm going to ask him for a kingdom. And this is in this place in the pastime of the Bhagavatam, the Lord has appeared and he says to Dhruva, yeah, don't worry, you're going to get this kingdom. What you've asked for is very difficult to attain, but you're going to get that particular outcome. At the time of the year that we are in, even though, every day is important, just because of the significance that people give to this time, this is a fantastic opportunity, not only to set objectives, not only to set a goal for ourselves, not only to envision where we want to go this year, but it's a fantastic opportunity not only to consider what do I want to gain, but to also reflect on what am I prepared to give. This idea that in order to experience a higher status of Krishna consciousness, what am I prepared to give? What price am I prepared to pay in order to experience that greater miracle? The one other thing I'm going to say before we do our first exercise is don't think that when you give, that you actually lose out, okay? When we give, yes, we do give something away. For example, all of us are on this call, you're giving some time. You're giving time, you're giving energy, you're giving attention. You're giving something right now. But this giving is like an investment. So the worst thing we can do as devotees is to give in the wrong way. I was speaking to a devotee recently who talked about how they often find it difficult to give. And they went on to explain to me something that we've all experienced. They said that I made sacrifices in Krishna consciousness. They talked about it. I made sacrifices and sometimes I got burnt. I made sacrifices and some things didn't turn out so well. I made sacrifices and people didn't appreciate what I was doing, right? Or didn't appreciate the sacrifices that I made. So many experiences, and we all have those. So let's be very clear again. The idea here is not that we're talking about sacrifices, meaning that we blindly give. What we're talking about is a wise investment of faith. Every single one of us, life is such that you give. 2021 has disappeared just like this. We gave 2021 up. The moment you woke up this morning, you gave up 2021. And every single moment, we're giving up the moments of our existence. And one day, we'll close these eyes in this material body and the system will not open its eyes again. One day we're going to close the eyes of this material body and the body will not open its eyes again in this world. So life is such that there's always a giving. What we're talking about here is an intelligent giving. I'll share with you something very interesting. I was reflecting on my own life. I know a little bit in terms of some subtle things about how the world and the material energy works. One of the subtle laws of material energy is this idea that you have money. And what is money? Money is an energy. Okay, money is an energy. It is Krishna's energy. It is Lakshmi. Now, what you see, if you carefully examine the lives of many devotees, you'll see that when devotees do not use their resources in Krishna's service sufficiently, right? You have a job, you have income coming in. When devotees don't use the money that Krishna gives them properly, when they don't sufficiently utilize that in Krishna's service, you'll see in the lives of those devotees, things will happen in their life where money will be taken away. Resources will be taken away. They'll be hit with legal bills. They'll be hit with all kinds of other situations where even outside of their control, they just lose Lakshmi. There's another side to this. Then you have the devotees who consciously use their Lakshmi in Krishna's service. They will consciously give their hard-earned, and I do emphasize it because it is hard-earned money, to a devotional project, or they'll use it to cook prasad and distribute it. They'll use that money in a dynamic and conscious way, and rather than waiting for it to be taken, they will consciously give that away. Now, in both cases, money has been lost. In both cases. But in situation number one, I want to hold on to the money. And therefore, what does Krishna do? He takes away the money, right? You wanted to hold on to it, so Krishna took it away. So the money was gone. Krishna took it away. We tried to hold on to it. No one gained any benefit. Option number two is very different. That money, which was going to leave us anyway, if I consciously choose, before Krishna takes it away, but through the material energy, I'm going to consciously give that money. And it can be to a project, it can be I utilize it directly in preaching, whatever it is, but I consciously give that money away. I consciously engage Krishna's energy. I reunite Krishna's energy with Krishna. I reunite Lakshmi with Narayan. I reunite Radha with Krishna. When you do that, then before the energy leaves you, you gave the energy away. What happens? What happens is that the energy comes back to you much, much more. There's a secret science in Krishna consciousness. I've seen personally that when devotees find that they're constantly losing resources, it's often a sign that they're not giving those resources away to Krishna sufficiently. And it's such a powerful thing, Krishna consciousness, that the moment a devotee reverses the system, the moment a devotee is conscious and sees, oh, hold on, I keep losing Lakshmi. Instead of losing Lakshmi, let me consciously give that Lakshmi in Krishna's service. And what you'll find is such a supreme science, that the thing that was just going away from you before, now that same energy, because you're giving it consciously to Krishna, is coming back to us again and again and again, more and more and more. So this idea is that there's a conscious progress in our spiritual life. Prabhupada says you have to become conscious before you can become Krishna conscious. The process takes place whether we are conscious or unconscious. But if we're conscious, we can consciously go along with Krishna's plan. We can consciously go along with Krishna's plan. And then by consciously going along with Krishna's plan, you get the full benefit of his own determination. So Krishna has a plan for every single one of us. The benefit that comes in every devotee's life is when we try to understand Krishna's plan and we try to coordinate and arrange our life in such a way that it aligns with Krishna's plan for us. And what is that called? When our plan is aligned with Krishna's plan, that experience is called bliss. That experience is called fulfillment. That experience is called happiness. When Krishna is pleased, because he's within your heart, the experience of Krishna's ecstasy is actually the experience of your own fulfillment, joy, relish, contentment in spiritual life. So our own sense of joy, our own sense of relish in spiritual life is exactly the degree to which we are aligning our life in such a way that Krishna is pleased. This is just the backdrop. I want us to do an exercise where we can start to utilize our energies more to align ourselves with Krishna's plan. What I'm going to ask you to do in one moment is to time travel. In a moment, we're going to take you to the first, we'll go. In a moment, we're going to take you to the 31st of December, 2022. We're all going to move into that space in a moment. And what I'm going to do as an exercise is we're going to take you to that point. When we take you to that point, I'm going to ask you from that point in the future to turn around and to look back. So we're going to do an exercise. We're going to go to December the 31st, 2022. When we get to that point, I'm going to ask all of you in your consciousness to turn around and look back at the entire 2022. I'm going to get you to look at that year from the future, looking back. And I'm going to ask you to imagine that 2022 was one of the most devotionally successful years of your entire spiritual life. I repeat, in a moment, we're going to go to December the 31st, 2022. And from that vantage point, I'm going to ask you to look back, considering that 2022 was one of the most, I repeat, one of the most successful spiritual years of your devotional life. And then I'm going to ask you to write down what made that year a success. I'm not going to ask you what you're planning to do. We're going to look at it from the future. And you're going to look back and you're going to write down what made 2022 such a great and successful year. Okay? So we're going to do this exercise in different parts, but we're going to start there. So I'm going to ask all of you to close your eyes. Okay? I want you all to close your eyes. And I want you all to imagine that today is December 31st, 2022. Take a moment just to allow your consciousness to settle in on that date. You're not in January the 1st. You are at December 31st, 2022. That's point number one. Point number two, I want you to imagine, and I want you to connect with the heart for this. I want you to imagine that it's been an incredibly successful year for you. I repeat, an incredibly successful, devotionally successful year for you. Okay? And I want you to take a moment based upon your journey of Krishna consciousness so far, I want you to attune with your head and with your heart. And I want you to reflect, what's made it such a successful year? Okay. So we're in December the 31st, 2022. We feel it's been an incredible year. It's been an incredible, devotionally successful, Krishna conscious year. Okay. And I want you to allow Krishna within your heart to bring to your awareness why it's been such a great year for you. Okay. Take the moment, take the time to think, why has it been such a successful year? What's happened in this year, right? What have I been doing in 2022 that has caused me at the end of the year to feel, yeah, that was a really good year. I'm pumped. I'm really happy. That was a really good year, right? I want you to think about it. Work with Krishna in your heart. You have your own relationship. Let him bring into your own awareness why this has been such a successful year for you. Right? What do you let it come into your mind? What's been going on? What's been going on in your sadhana that's made it such a successful year? What has been going on in your service that has made it such a successful year? What has been going on in your association, in your sangha, that has made it such a successful year? And what have you changed? How have you changed the way that you've invested your time, your energy, your attention? In other words, what's the yajna? What have you given up? What have you let go of in order to gain this great success in 2022? Okay. Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj was often writing that if we do not plan, then Maya will plan for us. So it is in this spirit that we are taking conscious control of our Krishna consciousness. Okay. But we're doing it in cooperation, in a mood of surrender to Krishna. So again, let Krishna bring this into your heart. Let Krishna show you. December the 31st, 2022, you're looking back and you thought, wow, that was a really good year. That was a good year. Okay. Let Krishna show you in your heart. Let Krishna reveal to you in your heart why 2022 was such a fantastic, devotional, progressive year for you. Okay. Let those images, insights, realizations, let them come. Let them come from Krishna. Let them come through the heart, through the inspiration, and take your time on this. Take your time on this. We're not in a rush. We're looking for quality. We're looking for transformation. We're looking for the adventure, for the miracle, for the ecstasy in Krishna consciousness. Let him show you. And when you're ready, I'm going to ask you to open your eyes, to bring your awareness back to the room. And then we're going to pause and we will give you, we'll start with 3 minutes. You can bullet point, you can write this however you want. You can draw images, whatever works for you, however you want to lock this down. But the first part of our activity is I want you to write down what was revealed to you. What was revealed to you in terms of what was making 2022, okay? So you jumped forward in time. We had this connection that 2022 was a really successful year. Now I want you to write down, what did Krishna reveal? What were the things that went on in 2022 that you had realization of that would make 2022 that great success, that would invoke that feeling that when you come to the end of the year, you look back and you think, wow, that was incredible. That was a great year. 3 minutes, I'm going to ask you to write down those reflections and then we're going to continue. 3 minutes, you feel free to switch off your camera if you want, and we'll reconvene 3 minutes from now. Okay, so we've had about 3 minutes. So the first thing I would like to ask is, I don't want to know what you wrote down, but I just want to know, how did it feel to do that exercise first of all? I'd like to get any thoughts. How did it feel to actually do that? You went to the future, you look back, and you're actually considering that this year has been a great success, and then you're writing down why it's a success. So Chinishati, you said your heart felt full. Do you want to elaborate on that for us, please? You can feel free to speak and turn your camera if you wish.
Okay. So I think because of the clarity of direction you're giving us and your own purity, it was really easy to connect with the exercise. And I really feel like it just came very quickly, what it would mean to have a very successful Krishna conscious year for me, if I looked back from December 31st. So I felt really full, really connected, almost like we feel connected when we're having really strong japa. It felt that close. So thank you. The experience was wonderful. And I'm looking forward to this year.
Thank you. And it's not my purity at all, but if there's anything, it's you guys. So thank you so much for the kind words. Mother Padma?
Yes, I felt fear almost. How to say, fear and trying to put together how my year would be. Looking back, had I accomplished what I should have accomplished? Was I still not being serious enough? Not in control? Not giving up enough? Not sacrificing enough? Knowing all these things made me fearful, because of course time is of the essence with all of us, So then I wrote down all the things that I thought I would like to do during that year. And I began to feel better.
Interesting.
Knowing that it's possible. I'm feeling I should be doing these things for my, in the looking back in 2022. But it also seemed difficult.
Yeah. I really appreciate that comment. Please carry on.
So, like Chidi Shakti, my heart was full, but it was full of anxiety. And almost bringing tears to my eyes that I should be, at a level of feeling grateful. I am grateful, but feeling more happy about looking back on what I have accomplished.
I really appreciate that very, very real answer. I really appreciate that. There's another exercise we're going to do, which is going to relate to what you're saying, but I want to hear a few more people before we take this to part 2. And let's be very honest. There's a way of giving Krishna consciousness which is a little bit more like a cliche, and it kind of it seeks to make Krishna consciousness seem like a very kind of commercialized package. But the reality is, in Krishna consciousness, in order for us to grow, we sometimes will have growing pains. Let's be very, very clear about that. It's not that everything is smooth and everything is blissful and everything is just wonderful. It's not like that. Sometimes the greatest growth that we have in spiritual life will come through the challenges that we go through in order to come out the other side. So that's why I really appreciated your comment, Mother Padma. I want to hear a few other people. I saw Mother Yashoda Mai, it's always wonderful to see you, and I'd love to hear your comment as well, Mother Yashoda Mai.
Haribol Prabhu, I'm so sorry I missed the first part of your class. I'm glad that I was able to get to this one. Mother Padma actually is echoing the exact opposite of what I was feeling, in that when I this was a really interesting exercise actually, because when I look back, actually, when I usually look forward, all I really see is, okay, if I do this, this is going to work out. If I do this, it's going to work out like this. If I do this, it's going to work out. So for me, it's one step after another step after another step of things that I'm putting in place that I think is going to make, you know, the path forward better. But the thing that came to me when you said, you know, let Krishna just talk to you, it was the first thing that came to me was, you're not the controller. You know, you can't, as much as you try to make everything work out, you are not the controller. And that's the first thing I wrote down. I'm not the controller.
Yes.
So then for me, what does that mean? Then my heart started filling with anxiety, because if I'm not controlling, if I'm not pretending to control, then what am I doing? I'm letting go. And that for me is one of the hardest things, just to let go and let Krishna, because to me, I look around and my criticism is, oh, why is that person not doing more? Why is that person, you know, not figuring this stuff out? Why is that person not, if they do this, this, and this, it will work out for them, you know? But actually, they're just letting Krishna take care of what needs to be taken care of. And I have so much trouble with that. So that's what came to me, is just let go, let God. You're not the controller. Krishna has a plan. He's working his plan. He knows how this stuff works. He's got all the resources that need to make it happen. You just need to trust him more. So that's what came to me.
No, and that's absolutely brilliant. I'm going to add to what you're saying, because I think it's, first of all, it's absolutely correct, no question. We also want, and so this, when I was thinking about this presentation, I was looking at the, there's a chapter in one of the spiritual warrior books, The Importance of Short-Term Goals. And it marries these 2 points very beautifully. But yes, absolutely, we're not the doer, but we have to also make that endeavor in order to be the instrument of Krishna, in order to achieve his particular outcomes as well. So both things which seem to be contradictory actually start to come together. But yes, first of all, I'm not the doer. Krishna is in charge, and we've seen that again and again, because we've tried to do things and it's just not worked out, at least in my life. It's not worked out the way that I expected. And at the same time, we're meant to make this endeavor in devotional service, and we want to plan on behalf of Krishna. We want to plan on behalf of Guru. We want to do something. We want to make an offering to Guru and Krishna. And the amazing thing is that when we try to do that, it's not that Krishna takes necessarily the offering, but because we've tried to do it as an offering to him, I tried to offer something to my spiritual master. I tried to offer something to Prabhupada. I tried to offer something to Radha and Krishna. They take the devotion and they bless us and help us to grow in our Krishna consciousness, because we're trying to give back what is theirs to them. All right? So we'll come back to that in a moment. I'm going to go to Madhavacharya, and I think there were a few other people who want to make a comment. Then we're going to go into the second part of the activity. Madhavacharya Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Bhuta Bhavana Prabhu. So the perspective of looking back really made a difference for me, in that, you know, it gave me the feeling as if I'm looking back at things that are already done. And, you know, that these goals that I said are already done. So it's just a matter of, I mean, that they will be accomplished. It's not something that, you know, as opposed to looking forward and you know, climbing up a hill. I'm at the top of the hill, and all I have to do is, so now all I have to do, these things will be accomplished. It's just a matter of not getting in the way, of making some effort here and some effort there. And there's a more of a confidence and an assurance that Krishna will make these things happen. Perspective, you know, looking back, that yes, these things will happen, and Krishna will facilitate that happening. I just need to, you know, not get in the way and make some effort, and it will happen, no doubt. So, you know, it's a powerful perspective looking back at what has been done. So I really appreciate that.
Thank you. And I just want to echo that point. For inspiration, we can continually do this. We're doing this as an exercise together, but at any point you can put yourself in the future and give yourself that mindset. It's been a successful year. I look back. Why was it a successful year? What happened? What did I do? What did I do more of? What did I do less of? The powerful thing about Krishna consciousness is that there's so many ways in which Krishna wants to help us. There's so many ways in which Krishna reaches out to us, but we don't always pay attention to what Guru and Krishna are giving. And because we don't always pay attention to all the help that we're constantly getting, because Krishna wants us to come back more than we do, because we don't always pay attention, we often miss out on the mercy. So this activity is to help us to tune in so that we don't miss that mercy. We attune more to that mercy and we experience all the great joy, blessings, miracles, all of this wonderful grace that Krishna wants to give us. And on that point, I'm going to go to Mother Kunti. I'd love to hear your reflection, Mother Kunti.
I just want to say thank you so much. This is so helpful, these reflections you're giving us. And I really, really like the concept of you're planning on behalf of Krishna, yes, not yourself. So usually, we neglect, we may not carry out what we plan when we do it for ourselves. But if it's for someone else or Krishna, we feel accountable, to do, to accomplish. So I really, really, really appreciate that phrase. I just want to say that.
No, thank you. I mean, I'm getting all kinds of realizations just by listening to you. We're going to take this into the second part of the activity. So the first part is you looked at yourself from the viewpoint of the future, looking back, it was a successful year, and you wrote down what made it a successful year. The next thing I would like you to do, and this is a little bit more nuanced, but it links to what Mother Padma said, what Mother Yashoda Mai said, which is very, very important, because at the same time, we know we're not the doer. But at the same time, as Mother Kunti said, and that is our philosophy, we want to do it on behalf of Krishna, on behalf of Guru. When they're pleased, we will deeply be pleased. We will make genuine spiritual advancement. We will go into a deeper state of Krishna consciousness. So now the second part, and this relates to a particular verse in this series of verses that we read. I'm going to actually read you the verse because I mentioned it before and I said this is very, very important. So we want to come back to it. So this is 4th canto, chapter 9, text number, let's just find the exact verse. I think it's number 5. Yes. No, 4. So this is 494. This is what we read earlier. Although Dhruva Maharaj was a small boy, he wanted to offer prayers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead in suitable language. But because he was inexperienced, he could not adjust himself immediately. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, being situated in everyone's heart, could understand Dhruva Maharaj's awkward position. This is very important, this last line. Out of his causeless mercy, he touched his conch shell to the forehead of Dhruva Maharaj, who stood before him with folded hands. Text number 5. At that time, Dhruva Maharaj became perfectly aware of the Vedic conclusion and understood the absolute truth and his relationship with all living entities. So part 2, pen and paper. What I'm going to ask you to do is you're going to write, and you have an option here. You can write to your favorite deities, right? It may be your home deities. It may be you want to write to Krishna. It may be a particular form of the Lord. You choose, but you're going to address Krishna in the form of a written prayer, okay? And what I'm going to ask you to do is you're going to write to him and you're going to ask Krishna, please reveal to me more about what you want me to do for this year, right? We did the first part, we looked back. Second part, you're going to ask Krishna, please reveal to me more about what you want me to focus on this year, how you want me to focus, and what I need to do to make the year a success from your perspective, okay? And you can address any fears that you have, you can write to him, please, how do I overcome my fears in doing this? How do I overcome the obstacles? Whatever you think is going to get in the way, you're going to write to Krishna. It could be Radha Shamasundar, it could be Radha Gokulananda, it could be your deities, Radha Gopinath, your form of Krishna. The form of Krishna that you have a particular relationship with. The first part is you're going to write to him for more clarity, more insight, and whatever help he knows that you need to have in order to make the year what he wants it to be for you. Okay? And then after writing that first part, I would like you to, for the second part of the exercise, you're going to write back as if Krishna was responding to your prayer. Okay? So the first part of your prayer, you're asking him for help. The second part, try to tune in and you're writing as if Krishna is responding specifically to your query, your prayer, giving you everything that you need to know for that year to manifest successfully in the way that he knows is best for you. Okay, is that clear? First of all, as an exercise? Is there anyone who's not clear on what I'm asking you to do?
Could you please repeat the first part of that exercise?
Yes. So the first part of the exercise, and I'll give you an example. So I'd write, Dear Shri Shri Lakshmi Nrsimhadev, thank you for all the kindness you've given me in 2021. Thank you for everything you've shown me for 2022. When I did this visualization exercise, I saw X, Y, and Z. Now I'm begging you, please help me to understand more about what you want me to focus on this year, why you want me to focus in this way. And please help me to understand what I need to focus on to make sure that the year becomes the year that you want for me. And please help me to understand what I need to do to make sure the year is a success. So that's the first part. Then you'll write the second part. So it'll be, Dear Bhuta Bhavana, thank you for the prayer that you've written to me. Bhuta Bhavana, I've seen that in 2021, you did well in these areas. I saw in 2021 that you struggled in these areas. For 2022, I want you to focus in this way. This is how I want you to do it. These are the things I want you to be especially careful of. And if you do these things, then your 2022 will be the success that it can be. Okay, so the first part, you're petitioning Krishna. The second part, you write as if Krishna is revealing to you what you need to know for that year to be a success. Any questions before we start? Okay, I'm going to give you 5 minutes and then we're going to reconvene. Please do this as deeply as you can. Don't worry if it's not complete. Don't worry if it's not perfect. That's not the point. We're trying to tune in to the grace of the super soul and the grace of your particular deities that you have a relationship with to get more insight. You can ask, how do I address my fears? How do I overcome certain obstacles which may hold me back? Whatever it is, understand that Krishna is real. He's there. He's with you. Now you ask him whatever you need to ask, and then also allow that reciprocation to come through in the writing, and then we'll reconvene 5 minutes from now. As you do this exercise, please be as open-hearted as possible and do not worry. It doesn't have to be completed. It doesn't have to be perfect, but just really try to petition the Lord. Again, you're writing to whichever deities you have a relationship with, and you're asking for their guidance, and you're asking them, because again, this idea, when we know we're not the controller, we want to know from Krishna, how do I make the year, how do I make it what you want it to be? I trust that you love me more than I love myself. I trust that you know me more than I know myself, and you know everything. You know the things which will come up this year that I can't even imagine are going to come up. So you please guide me. How do I do this? If you have fears, Krishna, how do I deal with the fears? What would you advise? Right? If there are challenges, Krishna, how will I navigate these particular challenges? Whatever it is, but remember, we have access to the Supreme Lord. We access him through our chanting, through the Bhagavatam, through good association, and we want to make that relationship deeper, stronger, thicker. What we try to do, what we want to do through these types of activities is make Krishna more and more a living, permanent reality, a living friend who I feel the presence of, who I turn to, and who also I'm able to attune to, so that more and more I can understand, oh, Krishna, I think Krishna's giving me this realization, right? Yeah, I think Krishna wants me to do this. We should become so Krishna conscious that we can speak like that on a regular basis. Krishna gave me this insight. Yeah, and then through the devotees, Krishna revealed to me this. You know, Krishna gave me this realization that, and I did it, and then it completely worked. Yeah. So more and more that we really feel Krishna as a living reality, as a real friend who's there and who we're experiencing and who we turn to, who we have feelings for, and who, when we pray to him, we see, oh my God, I prayed to Krishna and then this happened, right? So a very tangible reality. And this is one of the ways that we can thicken that deep bond between ourselves and Krishna, by praying to him, by writing to him, by reflecting on him, by reflecting on how he may be directing us. So I'll give you a few more seconds and then we're going to continue with the activity. Okay. So even if you haven't completed the activity, that is fine. Because even if you start the journey, that's really significant. And I want to encourage all of you to also, again, because we're going to talk a little bit more about sacrifice, to find that time. This is the most important relationship. It's our eternal relationship with Krishna. So even beyond this session, I'm going to ask you, find the time to continue on that particular track. The one last thing I'm going to ask all of you to write down before you do some discussion is, the last thing I want you to think about is, what do I need to be willing to make some sacrifice with? We began at the beginning of the session by talking about we want to gain, but we also need to give. And we want to be mature devotees. Mature devotees means that if I continue to pack my life with just more and more material things, where's going to be the room for Krishna? Where is the room going to be for the miracle? Now, that doesn't mean that I neglect anything that's important. Sometimes sacrifice may mean I do the same thing, but I do it with a different consciousness. We all know in our own lives how much time, energy, etc. We know what our genuine responsibilities are, and we know where there's opportunity for us, if we're willing to do it, to make an exchange, right? To let go of something of a lower nature, to get something eternal, something blissful, something ecstatic. So the last thing I want you to think about, and I want you to write this down, and this can be initial thoughts. Is there anything in your life that you think, you know what, to be honest, I should make some sacrifice in this area? For someone, it may be, you know what, I sleep 8 hours a day, and you know, I don't really need 8 hours. I could do 7, right? That could be one thing for one person. For some people, maybe, you know what, I don't really ever go to spend time with my spiritual master. I'm a bit lazy. I just wait. And if he doesn't come to my area, I don't go and visit him. It could be, you know what, I should make some sacrifice to go to where he is and listen to him. For someone else, it may be, you know what, I don't do any service. And, you know, and I just watch videos all day, right? Maybe I can actually stop watching as many videos and actually spend some of that time to engage in some service. For someone else, it's like, you know, I don't actually give any Lakshmi to any Krishna conscious preaching. I just keep it all for myself. Okay, maybe that's what I should do. For someone else, it may be association. But you know, there's the devotees I associate with, some of them are really wonderful, but I spend time a lot with the devotees who like to gossip and criticize other devotees. I don't need to stop associating with them, but I need to say to them, look, Prabhus, look, to be honest, we shouldn't be speaking like that about them. And let's spend our time reading instead. It's different for different people, but I want you to tune in. And again, it's unique to you. I want you to just give some time to think, where could I be making some wiser investment of my time, my energy, my intelligence in Krishna consciousness? Where can I be, you know, shifting it slightly, whereby I get much more benefit for that time, energy, association, investment? You choose. You have Krishna in your heart. It's not a one size fits all. You know, where there's an opportunity, you know, I could do that slightly differently. You know, I could associate a bit more with that devotee, because that way it would help my spiritual life to be stronger, right? Or when I associate devotees, we end up doing this, but if we did a bit more, you know, hearing or reading, we could get more for our time together. Okay, and I want you to be very realistic in this analysis. It's something that you're willing to do, not just something that I should do this, I should do that. I want you to, with the idea of sacrifice, it's a sensitive thing. I want you to think about what you think you could do, that you would actually be willing to do, even to some small degree. Okay, that's the last thing I want you to write that down. It could be bullet points, just some initial thoughts. Maybe I should be investing more of my time like this rather than this. Maybe I should be using my energy a little bit more in this direction or in that direction. Okay, maybe I should be doing less of this because it's holding me back, right? So sacrifice. Where are there opportunities for you to invest your energy, time, intelligence, association slightly differently, so you can get more benefit for the time, the energy, the association, the intelligence, whatever it is, right? Maybe it's that, you know what, I spend my time working on projects like this, but you know what, if I spent that same time working on projects like this, we could actually get a lot more Krishna consciousness done. We could share it with more people, whatever it is, right? On that point, and many of you will have heard this point, you will have heard Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, he talked about how the movement is always putting out fires. I'll be honest, I did a deep analysis of him. I was thinking, how is it he's able to preach in this way and able to have this effect when so many others are not? And we've all got the same amount of hours. And what I saw, and this is why we did this exercise, where everyone else was reacting, right? Everyone else was reactive. In many cases, he was proactive. So rather than allowing Maya to just come in and give you one emergency after another emergency after another emergency, I was watching my spiritual master and I thought, that's interesting. He doesn't wait for an emergency. He plans some visionary preaching, some visionary endeavor, some visionary program. He says, okay, let's all get together and let's put this out into the world positively, rather than waiting for an emergency to come in and say, okay, there's an emergency now, we all have to deal with the emergency. So it's in that spirit that we're trying to get on the front foot in our Krishna consciousness. It's in that spirit that we're trying to understand, what does Krishna want me to understand? Where is he showing me you should put your energy like this? You should proactively move in this direction. There are 3 modes. In the verses that we read, it talks about the 3 modes. Inactive, that's the mode of ignorance. Reactive, that's the mode of passion. Proactive, that's the mode of goodness. So we always have this opportunity in spiritual life. Yes, there will be some degree to which things will come up and we have to deal with them. Absolutely. But that shouldn't be our entire life. That should not be our entire life. So we should take advantage to proactively put ourselves in a position of strength and proactively move forward in our Krishna consciousness. So we asked you to do that last thing. Now, the last part of this activity is, what I'm going to ask all of you to do is pray. Okay, so I'm going to ask you to pray, because I'm going to create some random breakout groups. And when I say random breakout groups, it's going to be based upon your prayer. I'm going to ask you to pray to Krishna, pray to Guru, pray to Prabhupada. Help me to, please bless me. In a moment, we're going to randomly assign you. You're going to pray to Krishna, please randomly assign me with the devotee that I need to speak to, so that on this call, I'm going to share some things from my reflections on this activity. They're going to share their reflections, and they're going to also help to give me feedback on what I'm planning to do for this year. And I'm going to give them feedback on what they're planning to do. Okay, so you should first pray. Everyone just pray now. Krishna, please arrange that I get paired up with the right devotee, the devotee that you want me to to discuss this with today on this call. And then I'm going to share with them my reflections, some key takeaways. So from my reflections, from the writing, these are the key things that I'm seeing that I'm going to focus on for this year. And they're going to share the same thing. And then you're going to give them feedback on what you hear about their plan. And you're going to also open up to get their feedback on what you're planning. Okay? So is that clear? First of all, just quickly say a prayer. Then I'm going to start the breakout activity. I'm going to randomly pair you all up. And then we're going to give you some time to share your insights from the activity. And the reason why we do this, by the way, there's a seminar. It's a brilliant seminar called Devotee Relationships. It's a 2-part seminar. In the seminar, one of the points which are mentioned is that Krishna will often use the devotees who we reveal our minds to. And I've seen this. I'm sure many of you have seen this. When we reveal our minds with the faith and the realization that Krishna is present within the heart of the devotees, when we reveal our minds sincerely, Krishna will often use the devotees that we reveal our minds to give us incredible advice, guidance, ideas, insights that can really take our Krishna consciousness and our spiritual journey and our service to a completely different level. So we want to access that miracle now. Okay, so we'll give you, everyone just take a quick prayer to ask Krishna, to ask Prabhupada, to ask Guru, please pair me up with the person that you know I need to speak to, I need to hear from, I need to dialogue with on this call that will help me to gain additional realization to go in the direction that you want me to go in for 2022 and of course beyond. Okay, and once you've done that, then I'm going to start the breakout activity. So what this will do is it will send you into a breakout room. You'll be paired up randomly. I'm doing this automatically. And then I'm going to give you 10 minutes to discuss with your peer, and you share whatever you're comfortable in sharing. You have your own plans. You did the prayer. You got certain realizations or insights. You will share in your pairs, whatever you're comfortable to share. Ask questions, ask for feedback on your plans, ask them if they have any insights on what you've come up with, and do the same for the other person. Are there any questions before we begin the breakout activity? Okay, and if there's no questions, then I'm going to start the breakout activity now. What will happen is you will go straight back, you will go straight into the breakout room, and then I will bring you back 10 minutes from now. Okay, so you don't need to come back beforehand. I will bring you all back 10 minutes from now, and the breakout starts now. So we're going to close soon. I'm conscious that people need to I have a tendency to go over time, but okay, so I'm just going to ask you. So we deliberately did that activity. We built this up. You had some realizations. You prayed. So the people that you were paired up with, that's not an accident. Okay, I just want to emphasize that. You got the person that you need to pair up with for a particular purpose. So I just want to ask you, and we do this on purpose because when we churn this, it's not just speaking at people, but when we start to reflect and talk about it, I want to know how did you find that? What were your realizations? In this last part, we'll have about 7 minutes left. We just want people to share any realizations from either the pairing up, the other part of the exercise, because there's no accidents. When you share something, there'll be a reason. You may think it's just a nice thing that you're sharing, but someone else on the call, if not all of us, it will mean something specific to our spiritual progress by hearing what you're sharing. Okay, so everything that we've done in this session is based upon the idea that Krishna is here, the spiritual master is here, Prabhupada is here. We're here for a reason. We're talking about this topic for a reason at this time, at this date, and there's a reason karmically, spiritually, while we're all together. And when you're discussing in your pairs, you're going to share something that other people on the call need to hear for them to get the missing piece for the next level of progress or the next step on their spiritual journey. So I'm going to throw it out to you. We have about 6 minutes. Any reflections, anything you want to share, anything that came up? Davey. Bhakti Gami, do you want to share?
Yeah, Harry everyone. I just want to say that was such an incredible exercise. I had such a beautiful connection with Mother Dwarkalila. It was I feel so grateful, and I've been having such a bit of a challenging day, as I mentioned to you earlier. I just feel like so incredibly nourished, and like, just really spoke through Mother Dwarkalila, and so just everything I needed to hear. And I feel so grateful to hear her journey, and oh my God, I'm so grateful for the whole session today, and just such an incredible exercise. So yeah, so much everyone.
Thank you for sharing that. All these exercises actually came from Guru Maharaj, I think everyone knows that. So that's all good. I saw Anita, you wanted to say something. I saw you raise your hand, and then we'll throw it out to anyone, whoever would like to share. Then we'll go to Neil. I'm sorry. We'll go to Navikishore after Mother Anita.
Hare Krishna. I was so fortunate to be paired with Madhavacharya Prabhu, so I received so many wonderful feedbacks. I was talking about just my service that I'm doing, and how I find in the last 6 months, somehow it's been a big weight on my shoulders, just growing and growing in the amount that I'm doing. And I felt like in the last some months, it became almost mechanical, where I'm just trying to get it all done because I don't want to disappoint. And he helped me really reframe my mind, thinking about the love, our service brings, the motivation that is behind it is so important to make it sustainable. And I think just that reflection really helped me realize that I need to, before I do my service, I need to remember to take meditate on my intention and the purpose. But he also mentioned the obstacles, that our obstacles are not necessarily a bad thing, and that I can see this as an opportunity as well, for me to kind of redesign where this service started many years ago and how we can grow into the new time, place, and circumstance that it is today.
Thank you. And that's a beautiful, and I love that point also about how the challenges aren't necessarily a bad thing. So this is why we come together, because sometimes the way we may look at something, someone else may look at it in a completely different way, and they may completely shift our paradigm and the way that we see things. So thank you for that. I'm learning a lot from hearing that. We'll go to Navikishore, then we'll go to Yashoda Mai.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Prabhu?
Yes.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I just want to quickly go to Navikishore, just because I think he raised his hand.
I want to acknowledge someone before we go to Navikishore.
Okay, sure.
Srivas Prabhu is leaving. Srivas Prabhu, thank you so much, Prabhu, for taking our. We really appreciate it. And just for everyone on the call, Srivas Prabhu is our beloved God brother and also a guru as well to all of us. So, Prabhu, pray you come back to instruct us one of these Saturdays. We're always here, 10 a.m. Eastern US time. And please, if you want, you may want to say one or two things. I'm hijacking from Bhuta Bhavana, and I apologize. But Prabhu, if you have one or two words to say before you leave.
I think he's gone, Prabhu.
Yeah, I think he's already left.
Yeah, he's already left. He messaged to say that he had to leave. But yeah, Srivas is a real gem. And thank you for making that comment, Priti Prabhu. Let's go to Navikishore, then we'll go to Mother Yashoda Mai. And also, by the way, I know that some of you may have other things to do. I'm sorry I've gone over time. So if you need to leave, I completely understand. Navikishore.
Oh, thank you, and thank you, Priti Prabhu, for recognizing Srivas Prabhu. I'm glad that you did that. I was thinking, I just had a question. Did you strategically assign the partners, or was it kind of a random sort of?
No, it was random. It was random. I asked you to pray, then I just did the thing randomly.
That's interesting. So I was about to put in the chat, like, I've got two kids here. One finally sleeping, and the other one is I had to put some TV on to try to get him situated. But basically, the last hour and a half or hour or so, they've been screaming in my ear, and I didn't want to do the exercise, and they were screaming right before they started. And then I was thinking, like, I'm going to pair with Chaitanya Kishore, and I didn't know that was just a thought that came in my head. And sure enough, I was paired with Chaitanya Kishore, and he's got 4 boys. I have 2. And we had a really good discussion just about being a Krishna conscious, trying to be, or at least for me, trying to be a Krishna conscious dad and think about these goals. And I've been thinking about him and his family, and it was really cool. I didn't expect some kind of arrangement like that, but I'm really glad we got to connect this exercise and to talk about Krishna in this way.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for sharing that, Navakishore Prabhu. It's good to see you. Mother Yashoda Mai, please.
Hi, Haribol Prabhu. This was a great, another great exercise. I was shared with Mother Shalagram Sheila, which was such a nice, very nice thing. And she just made this point of, I was telling her that Maya really was testing me this morning, because yesterday I had been talking about how wonderful my period of chanting was in the morning, and how it's been such a foundation for me this past year. And so this morning when I sat down to chant, I was looking out the window and there was a squirrel trying to eat my bird food. So I've been spending all morning, instead of chanting, running outside, yelling and screaming at the squirrel to get away from the bird food. And it was like, it was just so obvious that Maya was just showing me, oh yeah, you really think you're so fixed, but no, you're not, because squirrel and you're gone. And Shalagram was just sharing with me how laughter is so important, you know, in this whole thing. Yes. And I was just realizing how seriously I take myself, and that that really, Krishna has a sense of humor. We should also like key into that aspect of Krishna too, is that sense of humor. And Gurudev always like used to say that too, Bhaktivedanta Maharaj, is that Krishna consciousness is something you should be having fun doing. If you're not having fun, you're not doing it properly, you know. So I thank Shalagram for bringing that point up, and I thank you for this amazing chance to start the year in this way.
No, it's that you guys made it successful. And I love that point about the humor and Krishna consciousness. It should be fun. There's a playfulness that actually keeps it very much alive and energized for us, which it can be easy to forget. But so thank you for reminding us, Mother Yashoda Mai. It's wonderful. Anyone else? Would anyone else like to say anything before we end?
Hi, Krishna. Bhuta Bhavana. Thanks so much for the class. It was very enlightening to try and look forward just here. And as for being paired up, I was paired up with Titi Shakti. And I did say that prayer before. And I honestly didn't think I would be paired with her, because we never really got a chance to like talk to each other and like really connect or anything. And it was funny just talking to her just as now. I realized that, you know, we kind of do have a lot more in common than we think. We both said that we need to do a stronger japa, more intentional, but you know, for different reasons. But it still came down to that one thing that we wanted to improve on. You know, I wanted to improve on it to be an influence on my daughter, and she has so many different projects working on, which I think is amazing. But she is trying to also work with other individuals. So yeah, it was good to look forward to, and to realize that with everything that you plan in life, you know, you plan your work day, you plan like how you said how your finances should be spent. I think also with spirituality, it has to be somehow planned and intentional, just like how you make everything else intentional. Not kind of like, okay, something that I will do, but make sure that it's like on the calendar, like how I have everything else planned out my day. I need to actually plan this out as well to make it progressive. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. That's, again, thank you all for really wonderful realizations and insights. I'm learning a lot from all of the different points that you've all shared. And I'm also conscious that they also mentioned I shouldn't speak too long because we need to close. So that's okay. So I think unless there's any more comments, I think maybe we'll end it there. But please, this is just the beginning. So feel free to carry on those conversations. Feel free to carry on the prayer, writing the prayers to Guru Maharaj. Feel free to our spiritual masters, Prabhupada, etc. Feel free to get back into December the 31st, 2022 and look back and furnish that vision of a successful year. And then feel free to look at what do I need to change in terms of my investment, time, energy, etc. so that I'm giving up something of a lower quality so we can get to that next level. It's easy to stagnate in spiritual life because it's easy to think, I'll just do everything the same way I've done it before. And why do I need to change anything? Why do I need to make any austerity? Why do I need to make any sacrifice? But that's not how the process works. But it's not just giving up, but some wise exchange of energy, right? So instead of spending my time here, I'm going to give a bit more time here, a bit more energy here. Miracles can happen. And thank you so much. It was really wonderful seeing all of you and having this session. And I look forward to hearing more about your successful spiritual year, 2022 and beyond.